Hi there. Hey, today we're talking about our human scaffolding. We each have our own unique scaffolding, and Joss and I over the last 10 years have come to recognise what feeds into this scaffolding. We actually haven't recognised we are living within this scaffolding, and it impacts every decision we make. It impacts how we're triggered, how we respond to other people, like the potentials and possibilities that you actually have in your life. Do you want to share what your experience of the scaffolding?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, my scaffolding at the moment is appreciative that the sun's coming because it was starting to rain when we were doing this. So the scaffolding, if you imagine a house that's being built or a building that's being built and you have the scaffolding around it so that you can come up and down, and that's the scaffolding for us is what we plug into from our family belief systems and the systems around us. So it shapes who we are, it shapes how we see the world and how we react to things. And at the moment, we're noticing lots of people, virtually everyone we're working with, who's getting triggered, or things are happening, or life's getting tough, or they're just getting frustrated by things. And to us, that's like your nervous system, which plugs into the scaffolding and influences how you think and feel. It's like your body's going, hey, you're plugged into this, it's not actually helping you anymore. But we don't know it because we're just so used to it, we think it's us. And so it's like all these things are coming up for us to unplug from that and decide what do we actually want to plug into.
It really impacts your relationships because how we respond to other people is through that scaffolding. So our whole lens on situations, we're seeing it through that scaffolding. And because we can't see other people's scaffolding, we don't know how they're looking at a situation.
Yeah.
Also too, we've been discovering how it really impacts how we define success in the world, what's appropriate behaviour, whether you're a good or a bad person. There's just so many things that feed into that. And we've noticed too, we're talking with people, it impacts like, whether you've been successful in education determines, like if you've had that feed in from family expectations that you go to the right school or the right university or you do a particular job, and how that flows right through your life because you're looking at life through your own scaffolding. And it's kind of like sets boundaries on your potentials and possibilities as well.
That's huge.
And we've come to recognise in ourselves how it's like it's so connected to the nervous system that that's your default mechanism and you don't even realise. And so we've come to recognise ourselves when we are like living through or looking at life or responding through the scaffolding, that we've just gone into that default mechanism from the nervous system. And so it's about being able to pause and recognise that you are living within this scaffolding, and then being able to step back and see it, like Joss was talking about, unplug from it.
I find it really interesting because it's almost as if your nervous system, especially your fight and flight, and it's sort of like the belief systems that you've got and the nervous system, it's, if you can imagine like a PowerPoint, and it plugs into the circuitry of that scaffolding. And because it's plugged in and because your body feels it, it feels like it's yours, but often it's not, it's the scaffolding. And when you learn to recognise that you might be getting triggered by something, whether it's something that happens at work or at home, that it's an indicator, I'm plugged into something, it's not really me, it's the system. So we're in the midst of writing our first book, which we're really excited about, and this is a big part of it, and then we'll be explaining how to recognise it, what you can do with it, and how to do things differently. So we wanted to give you a sneak little tidbit to look out for it. It's quite exciting.
And I think it's really important, I know on our journey, rather than going, why didn't I recognise this before, or that blame or shame that you haven't seen it, come to it with a curious mind, because we all have our own scaffolding, and it's hugely impactful once you start recognising what's feeding into
so much easier. It was like I had a client recently who was feeling very disempowered. Excuse the background noise, we're outside. And so when it was like this PowerPoint of hers was plugged into disempowerment, almost like she was on a little conveyor belt, and what she plugged into was this conveyor belt. So all these things came down the conveyor belt of the scaffolding that made her think she was disempowered. And being able to unplug from it and plug into something she desired, it was like on that scaffolding, all these things that came and helped her feel empowered started arriving. It's really simple once you know, but it can be quite tricky to recognise it.
And wider beyond that, I was walking along the beach this morning and recognised how our own individual scaffolding is also plugged into the collective scaffolding, so whether we're aware of it or not, so even expectations of society and wider society. So, and we're going to be sharing that in our book, but we just definitely wanted to plant a seed around that today.
Yeah, give you a little tidbit of something to look forward to. So if you're interested, keep following. We will be sharing a lot more, and we'll let you know as our book gets closer to getting published as well. So have a good day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.